Hi, I'm Kristen Oaks-White.
And I'm Avery Davidson. Thank you for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture, the only TV show bringing Louisiana farmers and consumers together every week. If you've watched over the last few weeks, chances are you already know that September is National Rice Month. It's a month where many rice farmers are finishing up harvest of their first crop and gearing up for the ratoon or second crop.
This week, Twila's Carl Wiggers introduces us to one of those rice farmers in Evangeline Parish who is beginning to flood some crawfish ponds as he prepares for the next season of his Louisiana farm life.
Water is pumping in Doral as Scotty Fontenot is about to turn his fields of rice into ponds of crawfish. He does this while he's waiting on this ratoon crop of rice to finish up.
Second crop's a lot more uneven than a first crop. So you got rice in there right now that's just well headed and still straight. Some that's starting to fill out with the milk. These here are starting to bend, starting to turn yellow on the ends. And then you got some that's almost completely yellow already.
With rice in many stages, Fontenot must keep a close watch on these fields. However, with rice prices in 2018, that second crop is crucial to rice farmers paying their bills.
Right now, they pretty much stay at around $19. And with the PLC, around the $22, $23 range, we know it's not going to go any higher than that.
Fontenot says those prices mean that he has to do more with the land that he has to make ends meet.
You need the extra income to keep going year-round. You used to just do your rice during the summer, but now you need something year-round to keep things cash flowing.
As hard as that makes Fontenot's job in September, harvesting rice and soybeans between almost daily rain showers, he says that challenge is a part of farming that he likes.
It's a challenge. Sometimes I don't know if we like the challenge or not. We worry about the rice when it's time, and then we worry about the soybeans when it's time, and then next we're looking toward the crawfish again.
Fontenot says that's a small price to pay to pass this farm on to the next generation.
They talk about sustainable agriculture. If we want to keep our farm going, we've got to be able to pass it on to the next generation, and I guess that would be the reward, is passing it on to the next generation and see it go for another 30 years or 70 years.
Fontenot farms around 1,000 acres north of Eunice. He has around 300 acres of soybeans that are ready for harvest, only when he gets enough of a break in the almost daily rains. Spoke with him today, and he was able to cut one field of soybeans yesterday. That's the good news. The bad news? So far, it's already rained about 1.5 inches today, and you guys, that's something that they're seeing a lot across the South. I mean, I know you've talked to Richard Fontenot, who's seeing a lot of damage and mold in his soybeans, and that's something that is not an issue for Scotty yet. But he said a few more days of rain like he's been getting, and he's going to start worrying.
You know, when it comes to soybeans, I was talking to a few farmers down there when I was in the Crowley area recently, and they're telling me that some folks are going to have to just abandon their soybean fields because the quality is so bad. Neil Melancon is going to be heading out there next week to tell us a little bit about that. But I mean, Richard Fontenot sent me a picture of his soybeans, and when I tell you it looked like it was a science project because of all the mold growing on what he harvested, it was pretty bad.
Yeah. What's Landon's looking like right now?
I was about to say, find some wood to knock on because they've got about 1,000 acres left to harvest, and it started raining on Saturday, and it really hadn't stopped, and it doesn't look like it's going to stop for a few days.
I think I saw him cutting some yesterday, and I saw he posted some pictures with you can see the clouds in the distance, but
well, no, they weren't cutting them yesterday. They were moving them.
Oh, okay.
They're moving some out of bins because the prices are so terrible right now that they're storing a lot of them to wait until in the spring, hoping for some better prices.
Yeah.
So the story's the same, whether it's South Louisiana. I think if you've got a crop in the ground right now, a lot of people are getting delayed by the rain.
Yeah. Remember that happening, a couple of years ago? It was a really wet October, and that just messed up all of our cane guys, our soybean guys, I mean, everybody. And we definitely don't want to see it on that cotton crop.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Carl Wiggers.
Well, Rice Month is not only about farmers bringing their crops to the rice mill, they also bring the crop to those in need.
It's an annual event that usually includes Louisiana rice farmers making a sizable donation of their crops to local food banks. But this year, they're doing more. they're taking their message on the road.
With the Rice Theater in Crowley, Louisiana as a backdrop, rice farmers in southwestern Louisiana gather to give to the food banks who help those in need.
The best thing we can have on the shelves is white rice.
It's here where Second Harvest Food Bank takes its share of 100,000 pounds of rice donated by the farmers and rice mills that provide this staple food.
We like to give back to our communities, and we like to give back to the people that are less fortunate than we are. And rice is kind of unique for a food bank donation because it has such long shelf life. It's relatively inexpensive, so our donations go a very, very long way. It's very healthy for you, high carbohydrate, gluten-free. Everybody can eat rice. Everybody likes to eat rice.
One man who loves to eat rice, Louisiana's 3rd District Congressman Clay Higgins. He also knows the importance of rice to his district.
Scores of thousands and thousands of jobs for supporting farmers and farm families, and Crowley, rice capital of the world, man. This is certainly a staple crop for Louisiana, and we feed a lot of Americans, and a lot of our fellow man across the world enjoys the benefits and a healthy meal of Louisiana-grown rice.
But not everyone across America knows about rice. That's why USA Rice is using this event to kick off the Think Rice road trip.
Let's go make our presence known across this country, giving out rice cookers and talking U.S.-grown rice.
Cameron Jacobs is the domestic production manager for USA Rice. He says this truck is going to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, then the Pacific Northwest, and back south to California. There are a couple of end goals.
With the distribution of rice cookers, where we have to thank Aroma again for our partnership, we're hoping to eliminate the barrier to cooking rice. Outside of our wonderful rice growing states, people find it a little hard to cook it, so we're trying to remove that. We're trying to raise our profile of people understanding rice is grown right here in the United States, and 85% of all you consume is U.S. grown rice, spreading that message and reinforcing the message of when you eat U.S. grown rice, you're supporting American farmers and American families.
Yeah, this begins 4,000 miles right here. 4,000 miles to heighten the awareness of rice, the nutritional value of rice, how easy it is to cook, how adaptable it is to so many different styles of cooking. This was a very creative idea. Whoever came up with this, I tip my hat to them, because I'm going to tell you, I think this will increase domestic rice sales. I think by next year we'll be talking about the impact that this 4,000-mile trip had. And this begins it right here. You ready to rock? Let's go sell some rice, baby.
The Think Rice road trip will wrap up in San Diego, California for the annual Rice Outlook Conference. We'll have a link on our website, twilatv.org, so you can follow along on the trip. By the way, Louisiana rice farmers, they donated 100,000 pounds of rice to food banks in northeast and southwestern Louisiana, and that's more than they gave last year. But what I thought was really cool, and you could kind of see it in the story, moving this donation from the Louisiana State Capitol to the Rice Theater in Crowley, I think it sends a strong message. It shows that this is actually coming from the growers. This is something that they want to do and they want to be a part of. And when you're harvesting, you can't go all the way to Baton Rouge, all right? That's a bit of a trek when you're in the middle of harvest season for some event. This right here was right there, and to see Kevin Birkin out there, to see Jimmy Hoppy out there, all these great rice farmers, Jackie Lower, people who are very involved in the rice industry, to see them there and be a part of it, I think that just sends the right message.
And it's different. They've been at the Capitol for so long that it's a nice change of scenery.
It's good to be at the rice capital.
Yeah. While September is rice month, sugarcane harvest has begun in earnest in Louisiana.
This week, Twila's Neil Melanson gives us a preview at how this season is shaping up.
With a roar, the 2018 sugarcane harvest is on. Here on Clayton Hurdle's 1,000 acres of cane in West Baton Rouge Parish, the stalks look good, but there's something ominous on the horizon.
As you can see, we're trying to get this in a hurry because we've got a pretty good rain event happening to the west coming this way, and not what you want the first 2 days of grinding.
Ironically, this rain is coming after a hot, dry summer that slowed the growth on some cane. The effect of these late storms can be seen from the air, where you can see spots of lodging or cane that's laying down, which also makes the harvest difficult.
It just slows everything down, slows the milling process down at the mill. It's not good on anything during harvest.
The longer the harvest goes on, the more problems there will be. Hurdle is showing his guys the difference between the various heights of cane that have been affected by both weather and the ripener they've recently sprayed.
And then it starts stacking the very top of the plant right here. It starts stacking the joints. That's an indication that the plot is working.
While it may be a wet start to the season, and even with the weather problems, the good news is that overall the cane looks healthy. Hurdle says, though, this year's crop has a high standard to overcome.
I'm expecting a probably above average crop, you know, but it always depends on the weather during harvest, you know, how much sugar this crop actually has in it. I think the tonnage is going to be good enough to be a good crop. It's just a matter of whether, you know, we've had a couple of record-breaking sugar per ton or sucrose years the last couple of years. It's hard to follow that up after the last couple of years, but I think we're still going to be at least above average crop.
Of course, we're just at the very start of harvest season, and some farmers haven't even gotten in the field yet as they're waiting for their mills to get going. Harvest season will run as late as early January of next year, and it all depends on the weather. And of course, Kristen, Avery, as you saw, the weather is not getting things off to the most ideal start here. Just a lot of muddy, nasty thing. You could see in the drone video there was some lodge cane in there, and you know, picking all that stuff up, it just takes a lot. Clayton only has about 1,000 acres, so it's not going to be, I think, as long a run there, but it's going to be a lot more difficult for some farmers.
Oh, but his neighbor Bobby Morris has what, 3,500 acres of sugar cane.
He sure does.
They're going to be at it for a while. And you brought up about the wet weather, and we already talked about that wet October we had a couple years back. I still remember that video of Gene Adolph in Assumption Parish. He's there driving through, and the cart next to him, the tractor with the cart, is just pushing this wall of water along.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just, you can't stop.
I hate it for those guys.
And some of them are still planting,
Yeah,
right?
that's right. Some of his neighbors, Clayton was telling me, are still trying to do it, and it's impossible to plant and harvest at the same time.
I was about to say, you've got to have a lot of workforce to be able to do both.
Now, earlier you mentioned soybeans. We're talking about that. Clayton has soybeans out there,
wow.
and he says the damage is around 5%, which is normal for South Louisiana. But some of his neighbors are not quite as lucky, and I'm going to be talking to some folks next week about that. I think we talked about that. But Landon's experience is kind of like what's going on. There's hit or miss. It just depends on how much rain fell and where, and if they have storage. Clayton has some storage, so he's a little bit better off. But not some of the folks that I've heard.
I'd love to say that we're looking forward to your story next week, Neil, but I wish you didn't have to do it. Thank you very much, Neil Melancon. So let me check my calendar. Yep, it's late September in Louisiana, so we're at the point where it's time to harvest almost everything, including cotton. So far, this year's cotton harvest is encouraging.
As Craig Gautreaux tells us, farmers are hopeful that this year's crop will wipe away the disappointment of the last 2 seasons.
Planes are spraying, pickers are picking, and gins across Louisiana are ginning the 2018 cotton crop. This year's crop has the potential to be an excellent one.
60 to 70% of the crop is considered anywhere from good to excellent, and some preliminary yield reports, especially from up in the northeastern part of the state, are kind of scary, really scary good.
The 2 previous seasons were plagued by tropical storms and heavy insect and disease pressure. Growing conditions were not ideal for northwest Louisiana, but the rest of the state appears to have a bumper crop.
This may be the best cotton crop we've had since 2013 and 2014 crop, which were our all-time best cotton crops.
And farmers need those high yields. Cotton prices have increased slightly, but other commodity prices have fallen.
Past years we've relied heavily on soybean and corn prices to kind of help us survive, but at this time, those prices are down as well.
While the cotton looks good in the fields, farmers must still get it harvested into the gins before they are paid. Until then, it is still at risk to the weather.
Get in the field as early as you can in the morning and go as late as you can at night, simply because it rains quite frequently here across the state.
Frommie expects farmers to complete the harvest by the end of October. With the LSU Ag Center, this is Craig Gautreaux reporting.
Now, Louisiana has about 180,000 acres of cotton this year, but because of the success of this year's crop, Frommie expects to see an increase next year. Well, the Louisiana Department of Agriculture and Forestry recently hosted several informational meetings on the Food Safety Modernization Act's new produce safety rule.
Commissioner Mike Strain explains the implementation of this new rule.
Louisiana is one of many states working with the FDA to implement the Food Safety Modernization Act new produce safety rule. This rule establishes science-based minimum standards for the safe growing, harvesting, packing, and holding of fruits and vegetables grown for human consumption. The overall goal of this project is to enhance Louisiana's produce safety programs, to continue to encourage the safe production of fresh fruits and vegetables, and promote compliance with the requirements of the FDA's produce safety rule. This project will help educate growers and will result in increased implementation of on-farm food safety practices by small, medium, and large produce farms in Louisiana. It will also develop a state-federal partnership for inspection, compliance, and enforcement of the FSMA produce safety rule as required by law. The first major compliance state for the produce safety rule arrived on January 26 of 2018, when larger farms began compliance with this new rule. Routine inspections will not begin until the spring of 2019 to give both farmers and state regulators more guidance, training, technical assistance, and planning to ensure everyone has the tools needed to succeed.
One more meeting is scheduled for October 2nd from 2 to 4 p.m. at the Courtyard by Marriott in Ruston, Louisiana. To find out more information about the new rule and about those meetings, visit our website at twilatv.org.
Still to come on Twila, we found a video that is sure to make you smile and probably give you a few goosebumps as well.
But first, we have a story about hogs, hay rides, and Hail Marys, the kind that you throw in football. Stay with us.
I now hope they're fighting today.
I hope they are. Put a Dorito on here.
I got a fish! I got a fish!
Find your place in the country and the lender who can get you there. Find Louisiana Land Bank. Financing for country homes, recreational property, farms and ranches, and agribusiness.
Before you sweeten your morning joe, before the icing on the cake, before the sugar hits the shelf, it begins with a family of sugarcane farmers dedicated to growing Louisiana for more than 220 years. The Sugarcane Growers of Louisiana, making life sweeter, naturally.
Sugarcane, sweet sugarcane. Louisiana oysters, salty, sweet, and delicious. But have you ever thought about what happens to all those oyster shells? Most of them end up in trash cans and landfills. The Coalition to Restore Coastal Louisiana is changing this with its oyster shell recycling program, and you can help by visiting these participating restaurants. It's a simple and delicious way to restore our coast. The shells will then be used to sustain and rebuild oyster reefs. Remember, once you shuck them, don't just chuck them.
Before I got active in Farm Bureau at the level that I'm at now, I often felt like I was isolated on the farm. It was just me against the world. Now, with my Farm Bureau family, I got somebody going against the world with me. I am Farm Bureau.
Fans of farm-to-table dining know that it starts with a farm.
This week, Twila's AJ Sabine brings us to Sunset, Louisiana, where T. Moise Farms is hog heaven for those in search of country flavor.
T. Moise Farms manager Monica Hernandez treats her hogs to a mid-morning snack under a shady paddock on her farm in St. Landry Parish. 2 years ago, Hernandez says she and her partner Tim wanted to bring fresh farm-to-table meats to your kitchen.
We specialize in Berkshire hogs. We also have some chickens, and we have laying hens, and we have country eggs.
Berkshire hogs thrive on country living, says Hernandez. Known for their high quality and flavor, T. Moise Farms got started with a pair of Berkshire hogs and an idea.
So we actually raised them from birth to harvest, and we decided to do Berkshire because the quality of the meat is one of the best ones. Berkshire comes from England and is very well known also to the Japanese consumer.
In addition to their pork operation, T. Moise Farms also produces pasture-raised chickens and eggs. Monica says eventually they hope to expand.
We would like to add some value-added items, such as we believe we make the best boudin, and also cracklins, and some specialty sausage, smoked sausage as well.
Spread out over 41 acres, Team Louise Farms devotes more than half of their acreage to their hog operation. Most of their sows have names. In fact, Macy here is about to deliver a set of piglets, just like these. Hernandez says interest in farm to table has skyrocketed.
We are at the farmers market in Lafayette on Saturdays, and that's direct to consumer, so that's actually farm to table. And we also supply some restaurants in New Orleans and also in Lafayette.
While these hogs enjoy a dip in the mud hole, you can bet that consumers will enjoy Team Louise pork for a long time to come. In Sunset, I'm A.J. Sabine for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture.
Team Louise Farms offers recipes on its Facebook page. For a link to their site, log on to our website at twilatv.org. Last week, we introduced you to Derek and Casey Luckett, a farm couple getting into the world of agritourism in St. Francisville.
However, they are not the only ones in the business of welcoming you to their farm. The fall is prime time for agritourism. So over the next few weeks, we're going to bring you some of the farms and ranches you can visit that have caught our attention.
If you're in central Louisiana, Butterfield Family Farms is hosting field trips for schools every Friday in October out to their farm in Pollock, Louisiana, a few miles north of Alexandria. There will be a hayride, a Be the Farmer ag education stations, plenty of games, and you even get to take home your own pumpkin with you because everyone gets a pumpkin. If you'd like to visit with your family, you're in luck. Saturday, October 27th, the Butterfield Family Farm will be hosting a harvest festival on the farm that is sure to be a blast for your entire family. To plan your trip, head on over to our website at twilatv.org. Well, farmers aren't the only ones putting the spotlight on Louisiana agriculture.
Louisiana Tech is suiting up for its second annual Agriculture and Forestry Day at the football game. This will happen on Saturday, October 6th, when the Bulldogs face the Blazers of the University of Alabama at Birmingham. And I know that school because Neil Melançon's wife got her master's from there. So that's how come I know that they have a really cool dragon mascot. During the game, there'll be special videos about the importance of agriculture, and of course, Commissioner of Agriculture and Forestry, Dr. Mike Strain, will be there as well. It's an event you do not want to miss, and what's really cool is they decorate each of the entrances with different facts about agriculture. They put them up on the big screen, and last year it was really neat when the video showed spotlighting the forestry industry and all the agriculture education there at La Tech. There were folks who stood up and applauded in the stadium, and that really, really was cool.
They do have a good ag program there, I know that.
Well, after the break, you've heard of a blessing of a crop. Well, how about a blessing of a bin?
How does it sound when you can fill a grain bin with beautiful voices? Hint, it's pretty amazing. Stay with us.
This is the moment I knew. His future had no boundaries.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org.
Landowners are minding the Louisiana forest for our grandchildren. A place for wildlife, recreation, lumber for homes. It's the right thing to do. Forestry, covering half our state, all of our hearts.
That's low, that's low. That's low. Look, he's blushing. Seriously.
I'm Rudy Tempesta. I'm 92 years old. I fought in World War II. Then I came home, worked for the post office for 70 years. I've been getting Meals on Wheels, and I enjoy it. The most important thing about Meals on Wheels is you meet the people, which to me is fantastic. You need people to keep your brain moving. That's what life is about. It's love and having a conversation with people.
This week, we're bringing you a Twila boost that you have to see and hear to believe.
Kansas farmer Derek Klingenberg has made a name for himself on social media with several viral video hits from his farm. But his latest video tops them all, in my opinion. Farmer Derek, as he's known online, recruited the Bethel College Choir to christen his newly built grain bin with the old American hymn, Down to the River to Pray. See, I told you, wasn't that great?
Made me think of Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? I love that movie.
I do. Well, that does it for this edition of Twila. Be sure to join us next week when Neil Melanson will tell us more about the damage soybean farmers are seeing all across South Louisiana.
Until then, you can watch all of our stories online at twilatv.org, and be sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram.
For all of us here at Twila, thanks for joining us. We hope to see you again right here next week.